I'm recording this brief video to talk about some things that I wish I had known when I was at your point in my accounting studies. Didn't really know what the industry looked like as a whole and what the opportunities were potentially. I was just really focused on taking the next class and the class after that and the class after that without any real understanding of the broad range of possibilities that existed and what some of these things meant. So you will see reference made in many job advertisements to Big Four or B4. There are companies that will only hire you if you have had experience at a Big Four, otherwise known as B4, accounting firm. And those are four firms: Deloitte, KPMG, Price Waterhouse, and Ernst & Young, also known as E&Y. They are, at one time there were the Big Eight and then the Big Seven, and basically they have merged, and now we're basically down to four of them, and they are the giants in the accounting field. They are global and pretty much everywhere, although as you'll see, not so much locally here. They basically do pretty much a little bit of everything. You're going to find tax, auditing, actuarial services. They do consulting, which is a really great place to get your foot in the door if you want to move up in that world. If you haven't looked into it, I really encourage that. There's a great website called Management Consulted that has a lot of insight about that industry. In terms of Big Four opportunities in Vermont, they are pretty limited, although that has changed a little bit recently. There is one Big Four office in Vermont. It's KPMG, and they're located in Colchester. Very recently, and really as a result of the whole shift to COVID and everybody working from home, PwC, otherwise known as PricewaterhouseCoopers, has decided to let all of its employees choose whether or not they're going to work remotely. So this means that you are no longer limited to whether or not you live in a region where there is a PwC office. The drawback is that they will pay you based on where you actually live. So you could work for PwC out of New York, but you're not going to make a New York salary if you live in Vermont. And I don't know enough about how the salaries are regionally to be able to really say much more than that, because this is a fairly recent occurrence. Within the Big Four community, this is jargon that will be tossed about quite a bit, and so that you won't feel left out at a cocktail party of accountants when they start talking about it, I wanted to introduce you to some of these terms. And they're basically associated with the career path at Big Four accounting. And the first is an associate, and you're likely to spend your first 2 years as an associate. You then, if you stay, are open to being promoted to a senior associate, also known as a senior. Depending on turnover, and right now there's a lot of it in this industry, promotions are happening a little more quickly, and so generally you would be expected to remain at the senior level for about 3 years before potentially moving on to manager. The kicker here is that if you don't have a CPA license, you are generally not going to be able to be promoted beyond manager. So that's often the line in the sand for folks who have decided that that's not a path that they want to pursue. Although generally most companies, once you meet the educational criteria to sit for the exam, will pay for your licensing fees, they will pay for the exam fees, they will pay for a prep course for you to do it. So and then often you will get a bonus after you've completed it. So once you become a manager, and you have, at each level of this, you have supervisory responsibility over those below you. And if they drop the ball or if there's vacancies in those positions, you're often picking up the slack and doing that work. And that's a lot of what's going on currently. But you would likely remain for 3 years in a normal situation at manager, and with the possibility of being promoted to senior manager after 4 years, senior manager after 3 years, I should say, spending 4 years at senior manager before you're in line to make partner. Now, the percentage of people that remain at these various levels goes down pretty significantly as the levels go up. So there are lots of associates. And ideally, if you can hang on long enough to become a senior, that's really going to open up a lot of industry possibilities for you. Those jobs that want to see a Big Four experience really want you to have made it to at least the senior associate level before you bail out. And the workload can be crushing, but quite often the rewards for the shift out into industry can be substantial. So a lot of folks go into this with the idea that they're just going to hang on tight and make it to be a senior, and then they will venture out. And you will find that really at each level. Once folks have kind of become senior managers, partner is in sight, and if they haven't had a heart attack because of the stress involved and want to hang out to make partner, you're probably making pretty close to $500,000 plus a year. So it's a little bit like the Hunger Games, and if you can survive all of this, and in 15 years, if you've become a partner, you've got a really good retirement for yourself and a good salary for as long as you can survive it. So if you decide that life in a Big Four is not something that you want to pursue, but you would like to work with a larger team and in a bigger office, there are really a couple of, these are not the only ones, but they're kind of two that come to my mind. I believe Gallagher and Flynn is larger, although only has 2 offices, than AM Peisch. But these build themselves out as kind of regional, and I put ish, accounting firms because they don't really exist beyond the Vermont, New Hampshire area. But these firms offer greater opportunities than you will find at a small accounting firm, where you're likely to just become very focused on either tax or financial statement preparation or whatever that is. The 2 larger entities here have opportunities really to move into different lines of work, different industries, and really develop expertise beyond really what you're most likely to be focused on in a smaller firm. And then, of course, we've got so many small firms, many solo small firm CPA firms throughout Vermont that need help seasonally, that need help year-round. And these are often great internship opportunities, and potentially there may be a promise of longer-term stuff. If you have a desire to land yourself in the Big Four track, beware that these firms tend to recruit from specific colleges. And if you don't attend one of those colleges, you are going to have to go out of your way to get on the radar screen of a recruiter for a Big Four accounting firm. And just be aware. Some colleges are considered targeted schools, and recruiters will regularly come to those campuses and be present at job fairs, be doing presentations, and actively looking to recruit from those schools. So again, if you choose not to attend a target school for a Big Four and you want that Big Four experience, you are going to have to become a master at networking to be able to get yourself, and not that it's impossible, it certainly is, but you will have to really do your homework in order to get in networking in terms of being able to be on the radar screen of a recruiter. And why would you want to do that? And the short answer again is that the opportunities in industry are plentiful from those who have survived in a Big Four accounting firm. And there are jobs that are, they will say either that you must have Big Four experience or that they prefer somebody. So if you've got two candidates of comparable experience, one has come from Big Four and one has come from a regional firm, preference is going to go to the person with the Big Four. Now, if you decide that public accounting is not your thing, you don't want to go into audit, tax, consulting, assurance, any of those other kinds of services, Vermont is home to lots of industry. And I just, slap some screenshots up here of companies that we're looking to do hiring. Now, many of these companies will take people at the associate degree level, but in order to have a lot of upward career mobility and responsibility, even within an industry organization, you're going to be having to move toward getting that bachelor's degree. But you may find yourself able to get your foot in the door while you're competing or completing those bachelor's degree requirements. So I think lots of people think of Vermont as very sort of small business oriented, and it certainly is. There is certainly lots of opportunity to work for large companies and be able to stay close to home. There are also moving out of the private industry area, looking at nonprofits and government opportunities. And I've just thrown a couple of these up here. Again, the nonprofits are plentiful, as are the government opportunities. The salary scale that you will find at both of these will likely be much less than you will find at either public accounting or industry, but they can be some places to get some really good solid experience and then maybe decide to move on from there. So what's hot right now in the accounting world? I would say that the three really hottest areas are strategy consulting. So companies that want to retool, that want to move in a different direction will bring in consultants, which often include a fleet of accountants, to come in and assess their current operations, make recommendations. We have seen so much disruption in supply chain that developing expertise in this area, both within industry as well as within a consulting framework, will make you incredibly valuable. The last is auditing right now, which is experiencing a lot of turnover. There is just more and more and more work for the fewer people that there are. It is crushing, it is exhausting, but it is a good way to get really solid experience really early in your career, sort of earn your stripes and be able to take that experience and move that into private industry. So all three of these are likely going to require at least a bachelor's, with the idea that you would maybe even be advancing your education beyond that. But I just wanted to present this so that you would have some idea about the opportunities that could exist beyond just completing your associate's degree or bookkeeping certificate or whatever it is that you might be looking for. Now, when you're looking for that next job, whatever it is that may be the next step in the career path for you, it's really important to set yourself apart. There are lots of new graduates all competing for similar jobs, and you need to show that you are the cream of the crop. You want to make sure that you have created, and if you've created it but haven't updated your LinkedIn profile in a while, you need to do that. Have a really good profile picture taken of yourself, one that really showcases who you are and the image that you want to present to a prospective employer. In this time in which We're not necessarily handing things to one another. Having digital business cards is a really quick way. And you might say, well, I'm not even a professional. Why do I want to have a business card? The fact of the matter is, even as a student, create a business card. You want to sort of live for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And if the job you have doesn't involve business cards, make your own personal business card. There are a couple of options that I've listed here, and then you can create them with a QR code. And all somebody has to do is snap a copy of your QR code. It goes into their contacts, and now they have all of your information. Similarly, if you happen to run into a recruiter and you've enabled the ability to take QR codes off of to be able to use those on your phone, and you may need to download an app, a QR reader to do that. That will also allow you to keep important contact information from people and make sure that you follow up with those networking opportunities. You want to prepare for your fit interview, and this is a video that is a fairly brief one. It is geared toward consulting, but it applies equally across the board, because having somebody come through the door to work in a company with all the hard skills on paper, employers are finding that that's not enough. What they want is to make sure that somebody's going to be a good fit for their organization. So before they're worried about whether or not you know what a debit or a credit is, how well do you deal with adversity? What happens if you run into a difficult situation at work? How do you respond to those things? This is what they want to assess for, because they want an employee that is going to fit within the culture of that organization. Next is that you want to prepare your elevator pitch, and I have an example of how to do that here in a video. And basically your elevator pitch is: be prepared when you meet somebody for the first time to be able to network with them and say who you are in a very polished way, what you're looking for, and a little bit about your relevant experience that would cause you to be qualified for that kind of a position. And then network, network, network. I've put a little logo here for the Southern Vermont Young Professionals, but throughout Vermont, there are young professional organizations. They get together, they do hikes, they do pizza parties, they have ice cream socials. Become connected with your local young professionals community, and expose yourself to what others are doing, and that will also help to broaden your horizons about what might be out there for you. And who knows, you might meet your next job contact at an ice cream social. And that concludes this video. I hope that this was helpful to you.